Welcome back to MMA Unhinged. I am joined by Bryan Lacey, none other than Bryan Lacey, by the way. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, mate. Listen, what a duo of names, Bryan and Lenny. We should be in the 1960s, you know, tiling houses or doing something like that. That's I appreciate the name, Lenny, mate. It's a quality name.
Yeah, what was that book that we used to read in English? Was the Lenny and... Come on.
You're looking at someone that doesn't
Mice
read
and
much.
Men. Mice and Men. We could be like Mice and Men, but just different.
Oh, come on, we can figure this. Let's spend the first 5 minutes trying to figure this out. Of Mice and Men, you smashed it, mate. Well done, well done. But Lenny sounds like somebody I could trust to tile my bathroom. It really does. It's a proper name. I bet you can chop wood. I bet you know what an alternator is. I don't know. I'm guessing. It's just that type of name and Lenny March as well, mate. What a quality name. Really? You should have been a WWE wrestler or something. If Lenny March came into the Royal Rumble, I'm betting on that dude. Forget Eddie Guerrero. Forget Brock Lesnar. Get Lenny March in there. Let's go.
This is absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, number 30 Royal Rumble. Lenny comes in with his music. I'm forever blowing bubbles. That's all you need.
I like the way you come in number 30 as well, mate. You're not confident in your cardio. You're not going in early.
If I'm going in first, that's it. I might as well walk under the ropes. That's it. It's done.
That's it. Just hang out, mate. Just hang out.
I mean, talking about WWE and we're talking about the Royal Rumble and lasting long. Rey Mysterio. Back in the day, how long did he go for? Was it? I can't even remember. He got like 15
a small dude, though, mate. These flyweights and bantamweights, they got cardio for days. Listen, when you shove Brock Lesnar in as number one, that's when you know that guy's been in training. That's how it looks.
Yeah, but the Royal Rumble is always fantastic to watch. One of my favorite events, actually.
Let's talk about real fighting, though, Lenny. Let's talk about real fighting. Come on, not men bouncing about pretending.
Yeah, we're talking about some actual fighting where they actually punch each other in the face and not botch it or anything like that. Yeah. My first topic, I wanted to talk about the Oktagon MMA fans watching through a screen. I kind of get the atmosphere. I feel it because the way they go on, it's crazy. And the way I'm looking at it is like it's so European. The way how crazy they are about fighting, but you can only get so much from a screen when I'm watching it. You're the man. You're in the arena. You get to witness it firsthand. Bryan, please tell me what that's like.
I don't witness it. I feel it, mate. I feel it. I have been lucky enough to travel the world doing shows and there's some amazing ones out there. The big shout out to UKFC, UK Fighting Championships up in Preston up the north. They create a great atmosphere. I've done ones around the world for various other shows in America, places like that. But my favorite thing is watching other people react to an Oktagon audience, watching other people react to it. And I'm not just talking the fans. We had John Kavanagh walking out with Lucia Pudilova. She started working with him. He flew over to corner her for her last fight in Oktagon before she got re-signed by the UFC. And there's a beautiful moment. And one of our camera guys, Marek Kikindler, I'll give him a shout out. He's a genius. He caught it and he stood on the ring apron, and as Andre Novotny is announcing Lucia, John Kavanagh is just looking round like left and right, and his jaw is on the floor. It was something special. He even went up to the two owners, Pavel and Andre, afterwards, and he said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know this was." He said he thought it was going to be like 2,000-3,000 people, and he was in, I think it was Ostrava at that time, so 15,000 people going nuts, and he said. This is his quote, not mine. He said, there's only one other walkout I've had that has given me that feeling. And you can guess who that walkout is. So for somebody like him, and it's the same again, whenever we have the UK guys come over, Callum Mullen, he was the first fight of the night for Bratislava. Marched out, got so excited, ripped his shirt off before he even got to the cage. And they all spoke about it afterwards. They all talk about the atmosphere, the crowd, and it's something special. It's something I hope we can bring to the UK. It's something that I really hope, because we're not just here to, just be a show. We want to give the fighters the experience. We want to give them arena experiences. We want them to walk out into, the theater of dreams that they've thought about in their sleep, where they're thinking about walking out in front of 15,000-20,000 people. But we also want the fans to experience that, because I think it's missing in the UK. It's all about the fights, which is great, but the fans are there, and there needs to be some sort of experience and feeling for them. And that's the difference. That is the difference. And that's what I'm excited about bringing it to the UK.
Absolutely, and you were talking about it. Oktagon do a fantastic job of producing, and you talked about the cameraman producing, and everything about the event just feels 10 times bigger than it is. That could be down to the fans because they are absolutely wild. They're screaming. They're doing all sorts of whatever they're doing, but they're loud to say the least. Has there been a moment at an Oktagon MMA event where you've kind of, you know what, let's take the headphones off for a second. Let's listen to this crowd and kind of appreciate it, because I know, yes, you're in work, it's your job, but has there been a moment when you're thinking, wow, hold on, let me just kind of listen to that noise, basically?
There have been a few moments like that. There are some special venues as well, and I'll talk about Germany because we've only been there a year, and we've already sold the Fest Hall out twice. Munich, the Audi Dome, and then the Rudolf Weber Arena. We almost hit capacity, which was just under 13,000 in the last event, which was phenomenal. But that's a new market for us. And one of the guys that was there was a guy called Christian Eckelin, and he is a superstar in Germany. He's got his own crazy following. He's got his YouTube channel. He trains at MMA Spirit. He trains with some amazing guys like Stefan Putz. He goes over to UFD, trains with Zavada brothers. And I'd heard that he was the man in Germany. And when you meet him, he is just so humble. He's like super cool. He's, crazy, like successful guy. Doesn't need to fight. He's one of these guys that has made it already. Doesn't need to fight. And I was commentating with Frank Mma for his fight, Oktagon 33, back in June of last year, and it was the first event in Germany. So it's off the back of us doing Oktagon Challenge in Germany, and they were one of the coaches. He was the co-coach with Stefan Putz for one of the teams, and his walkout, both me and Frank Mma took our headphones off, and like Frank is so. At first, like he's not numb to this stuff, but he's been in it. He's walked out in fights with Brock Lesnar. He's held the UFC heavyweight title twice. He's been in the cage when that noise, and he spoke to me after we saw that walkout. He's like, how do I not know this guy? This guy is a superstar. And if you watch it back, there's some great video of him making that walk into the arena, and it was electric. But that's just one of many that I can think of. That one stood out because of Frank's acknowledgement. That one was when he kind of went, first of all, how big the Oktagon show was, but secondly, like, this guy's a superstar, and this to create that sort of following. I think we got 8,500 people in the Fest Hall roughly, and it felt like 8,499 were there for Stefan, for Christian Eckelin. It was mad.
Something different. The German fans with a few beers down them, they were sounding a little bit louder. So
do you know what? I've got to tell you this. So Germany is a strange place, right? Because they've not fully accepted MMA. So we had to do more work with the police than we've ever had to do with any other event. So in the crowd, and this was even as we walked in, 2,000 armed police.
Wow.
2,000. Whoa. And it's 2,000. And I mean, not just little guns, like fully armed. And there was some, they'd also bought, I think, 500 tickets themselves to be undercover in the crowd. This is how scared they were of this. And also because we've outsold everybody in Germany. We've outsold we've broken all the records the UFC set. We've done all that already. But this was the funny thing. It was 2 nights before, the night before the weigh-in. We had to go meet the police to talk about the security, and they were panicking. So they were like, "So what are you serving at the bar?" And we were like, "Well, we've got wine, we got beer, and we got peach schnapps." And they went, "No, this event's cancelled." We were like, "Whoa, what do you mean?" No, they said, "Well, you have to cancel the peach schnapps." So we were like, "Okay." So we cut the peach snaps, and then we were allowed to do it. So literally the German heavily armed police officers were worried about some geezers getting smashed on peach snaps, mate. So that's how Germany rolls.
That's funny. Imagine if there's some sambucas, some Jaeger bombs as well. They would
Listen,
have been
mate.
off it.
Listen. There would have been 7,000 armed police and just 4 actual spectators with like sniper dots all over them in case they cheered in the wrong ways. It would have been ridiculous.
That's brilliant. That's a funny story. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. That's a good one. But the 500 undercover in the fans, that's kind of
No,
crazy,
we'll
isn't it?
take it. They didn't ask for the tickets. They bought them, so that and they seem to have a good time. So we'll take it.
That's really funny. I mean, you've probably got stories like this, and you mean you've commentated all over the world for different promotions. I kind of want to talk about your tenure in Oktagon at the start and present now. What's that major difference that you kind of notice? See that transition over time from obviously starting and obviously now present day.
As what do you mean, as a commentator or watching the show
Anything.
grow?
It could be regarding the company. It
Yeah.
could be how they've gone up. Trajectory, obviously, they've blown up in the last year. I'd say. I think that people have like regional shows, European show, but I would regard them as a big European show now. I think that's where they're at.
They're there, mate. And I think like when I first went there, one of the reasons that I was talking to them was the two guys at the top, the Pavel and Andre, Pavel Neruda, Andre Novotny, and they are just different. They are just different as businessmen, as fans of the sport. They truly are fans of the sport as well. Their vision for what they can do. Nothing is impossible, and that's the we can have these conversations, wild conversations, and then 3 months later we're doing the stuff, and it's they're doers. They are. So I think the big difference is them, and what they've done really well is grow the home market. So Pavel Neruda is from Slovakia. Andre Novotny is from the Czech Republic. So they built it there, and they're so strong. The following there, I mean, we sell out so quickly, and the stars that they've built. But it all comes down to, and even in the expansion, every territory we're going to, it's how we grow into markets is how we tell the story of Oktagon, but also of fighters. So if you look at some of the biggest fighters that they've got, they're not just good fighters, but they've got good stories behind them. So that is something that I think has stood them in good stead in Czech Republic, Slovakia. If you look in Germany as well, that the way that they've grown there and how they've really embedded themselves in 12 months as the big promotion in Germany, and then that's the aim with the UK. We want to come over here. We're doing the project, so we've got Oktagon Challenge, which is our reality TV show, which has got 4 fighters from Ireland, 4 fighters from England, some amazing coaches. Brad Pickett is one of the coaches. Paddy Houlihan, Shamrock is this was great as well. He could not wait to represent Ireland. He could not wait, and he wore those colors, that tracksuit, that rash guard, as proud as anybody from there. And then you got Oktagon Mma as well, who is, for me, him and Shem, they are signed fighters with Oktagon. They're signed lightweights, and they are great personalities, amazing stories behind them, and potential huge stars. So we got that project. Then you got the Jake and the Paul one. Jake Quickenham taking on Paul Smith, which again, like, everybody looks at it just like a celebrity fight, but I'm with these guys, and I've been with them when they're training, and I know MMA. I've been around some of the best gyms, some of the best fighters, best coaches, and what they are dedicating to this over 10 months as well. Just think how good you can get in 10 months. Is phenomenal. So that, I hope, will bleed into some of the mainstream. The Oktagon Challenge, I hope, will really engage some of the MMA fans, and with both of that, I hope that we can excite the UK and Irish audience.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the English market and what they're trying to do there. And we talked about how big they are in European, obviously Slovakia. You talked about Czech as well, Germany as well. Do you feel like moving into the English market, because there is a lot to be desired over in England? We get 1, maybe 2 shows a year, and let's be honest, the fans over here are great. The Irish fans are fantastic. It's a market that need to be grabbed and kind of get a grip of. Do you feel like that's what Oktagon are going to look to do? Kind of grab this market, and obviously, do you reckon that's going to take them into the right direction moving forward in the future as well?
The plan is to be Oktagon. That's what we want to do. And if you look at what we've created, and again, you've seen it on the screens, and when you actually go to the events, when you feel it, it's different. And it's not just from the fighter perspective, but from a fan perspective as well. Wow, to go to an event and be there for the event, the whole event. So the plan to come over here is very much to be us. It's to not but we want to be us, but we want to be also we want to represent the UK and Ireland. We want to make this feel like we've done in Germany. That feels like a German promotion. Like we've done in Czech Republic and Slovakia, that feels like their promotion. We want to do the same over here, and I think there is something missing in this market. I think it's not an easy market either. I think there are. We have got go to Germany. There's not the PFL are going there now, but before that there was no PFL, no UFC, no Bellator. There's only got a couple of semi big shows over there, which isn't enough to feed a country that size or with that amount of gyms or talent. Whereas the UK, we've got loads of regional shows. We've got lots of amateur shows. We've got Cage Warriors. You've got UFC. You've got PFL, Bellator. They're all coming here. So it's a different challenge. But I hope we bring something there. I hope people see that we are bringing something different. It is an experience coming to an Oktagon show. When you come and see the audience, you would look out and it's not just bunches of blokes watching the fights. Watch our shows and don't watch the cage to start with. Just have a look at the audience, because again, it's one of the things, even at the weigh-ins, where I watch people look around and there's granddad with the grandson there, and there's mom and dad together, or boyfriend and girlfriend, or a group of girls watching the fights, or a group of blokes. So it's a real mixed audience, and I think that is what we can deliver differently to the UK. And we're excited. We're super excited to come over here, because I think Pavel and Andre definitely see this as a market which would signify that we are the biggest in Europe. If we can claim this, if we can do what we do in other places, and I believe it as well. I think we've got enough behind us, and the skills and how we do what we do as well. I think it could be something very special.
I completely agree. I mean, look at the talent that you have signed out of the UK and Ireland. We're talking like Shem, Lee Chadwick, Andre Fisher, sorry, Stuart Austin. I mean, it shows that you are serious about making the move, and Callum Mullen as well. I mean, I know you've got a few names in your head that you would love to add to the roster, and I'd love to ask you about that. Is there? I can see you smiling already.
I
Is there
always
a few
smile, mate.
names
And yeah,
that you would love to see compete in the Oktagon MMA ring? Is there a few
of course.
English?
Listen, I've got so many people that I absolutely adore from the UK scene. Aaron Abbey, what a story behind that guy. Like, talk about somebody that overcomes the most phenomenal challenges in his life and smiles through them. So cystic fibrosis, told he'd only live till 21, told not to train because it would affect his lungs, and his uncle and his dad made him train rugby, made him train martial arts, and he's just a phenomenal character. Then he went through cancer, testicular cancer, looked like he wasn't going to make it, fought his way through that, was told he'd never fight again. 1 year after getting into remission, he made that walk into the cage. So there's people like that, and again, it's not just the fighter, it's the stories behind them. So there's always people like that. But for me, what I like is what we've done already. Like if you look at the Oktagon Challenge, the 8 guys that we've announced that are in each team, they're top talent from both Ireland and England. You look at George Staines, you've got Bo Gavin, Jake McHugh, you've got Hassan Galazi as well. Then you jump to Ireland, you've got this. It's just phenomenal talent. Aaron Machiavelli, you've got Aaron McDonald over there. Dennis Frimpong, you've got Arman Herczeg. You've got phenomenal up and coming potential talent. So it's not all about like we have signed some guys that have been, and been there, done it. Lee Chadwick, what a legend he is! What an absolute warrior he has been throughout his career. The amount he's had, I think he's had over 100 professional fights, and look at him. He's just a monster. But for me, it's now looking at that talent that we are bringing in, getting the likes of those fighters to come to us and want to be with us, and that's what I'm hoping. I think a couple of shows in, we will have fighters queuing up to be part of and to experience the type of show and walkout we can deliver.
Yeah, and I want to talk about how competitive the talent is over in Oktagon. I was just talking about the English talent coming over. Shem, Lee, Callum. Shem, drew in his first fight. Lee lost, and so did Callum. But I think that's good because what it shows is like how competitive the roster and how strong and how deep the actual roster is. Obviously, they didn't get no favors in the matchmaking or the matchups into their debuts, but does that spring good to Oktagon because it shows how deep their divisions are?
It was, and if you look through those 3 fights that you mentioned, there was 3 very different experiences there. So Lee Chadwick, I think he came out and he was itching to make a statement, but against Robert Brycek, who is, he's the number 1 contender. He's come back to Oktagon. He's on a 4-fight win streak, 4 first-round knockouts. He's just changed. He changed his camp, and now he's completely changed in the cage. And I think Chadwick, I don't know whether he underestimated him or just came in with slightly the wrong game plan. I'd have loved to see Lee take him down and see what he could handle on the ground, because Chadwick on the ground is crazy. So I think that moment kind of, even though he's got the experience, kind of got to him. Callum Mullen took on Jakub Donnell, which is a tough fight for anyone. Really is. And you know what? It's a crazy thing, because I know Callum is disappointed with that loss, but the Oktagon was so impressed with the fight, because we know how good Jakub Donnell is. We've seen him fight against some crazy talent out there. They might not be well-known names in the UK, but they are very, very, decorated and well-known names over in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. So Callum Mullen gave a great account for himself, and he's learned from that. He got swallowed by the moment a little. He wasn't expecting the big crowd, the big arena, to feel like it did. I think that kind of, that's something he will learn from, and I have no doubt that he will come back stronger from that. And then Shem, he took a fight with a guy on fairly short notice. And again, we're not giving easy fights. We're not doing layups for anybody. You've got to earn your spot. And Shem will tell you as much as anyone that he respects that guy phenomenally afterwards for taking the fight, for giving him the type of hard fight. He doesn't agree with the decision. But again, it's not a loss, it's a draw. And I was with him for nearly 4 weeks after that, filming Oktagon Challenge. And if you want to talk about a man that is now motivated to make a statement, then you're talking about Shamrock.
Yeah, he's always brash, and always his talk, the way he talks, his aroma. You just know what he's going to bring.
Aroma? What do you mean his aroma? Come on, his aura.
Brian, sorry. You know what I meant.
Shamrock's aroma. Listen, I will tell you, Shamrock's aroma is lovely. So if anyone's doubting that, that's fine. But his aura is also
aura. That's it.
Special,
I got my words mixed up. I promise. But yeah, his aura, the way he carries himself.
His whole story. Like you talk about somebody that is. And again,
from the police, went to a different country.
Dude, 10 years on the run, 10 years, then going to prison for that crime. And then he gets acquitted within 15 minutes of the jury deciding, making a decision. They make it in 15 minutes that he's not guilty. It's a crazy story. But, he again, and he embraces the bad stuff as well as the good that he's been through in his life, and says he wouldn't be where he is without it. But you talk about somebody who's turned their life around because of martial arts, who's opened their eyes because of martial arts. He's seen the world because of martial arts. So again, when we as fans and as people who truly understand what, martial arts in any degree, whether you do it as a hobby, whether you do it as a competitor or as as a professional fighter, it can change lives, and it does change lives. And he is one of the best stories to show that.
Absolutely. I want to talk about Oktagon Challenge and also the UK expansion. We kind of briefly topped on it a little bit. I've heard from the grapevine of Scott. He let me in this one. He said that 4 shows coming to the UK next year. I'd love to know more about that. I seen you talking on a podcast that they're traveling around the UK, which I love. What we've seen in recent years, the big shows, they come to the UK. Or England or Ireland, and it's Dublin or it's London. It's strictly that. Up north, great, fantastic market. As we're going to Manchester, Sheffield, Liverpool, anything like that, it would work well. Newcastle, I know Cage wants to come to Newcastle. That would be a fantastic show. So talk to me about obviously the expansion and what we can expect next year in the UK and obviously Ireland.
You can expect us going on tour, as you want to say. The UK, Ireland have got so many good cities. They've got so many good arenas. They've got so many, you know, fighting cities with great gyms, good talent.
Mhm.
So our plan is to, you know, do that, to go around, and we want to experience that as well. We want to feel what, you know, a different city to Manchester will feel like. We want to see how that works. And we're not just, you know, expecting people to come to us. We want, you know, we're going to come to them. We're going to come to these different cities. We're going to do different projects as well. Next year, we're already lining up some exciting projects similar to the Jake and Paul one. Possibly maybe another Oktagon challenge. We don't know yet. We're deciding whether we want to do that. This one has been special though, mate. This one again, yes, 7 series. This is the 7th, and it's my first one sort of hosting it. I've been a little bit involved in the German one, but watching Pavel and Andre at the end of it kind of go, this is the best. This is with all the dynamics, the you know, the storylines underneath. Nothing that is you write, but just happens as reality TV does. And then the quality of the fights, the fighters. It was, and the challenges. Oh my God, we did some absolutely ridiculous stuff with these dangerous human beings that could have smacked me in the face at any point, but quite luckily they embraced it as well, and they jumped in with you know, both feet, and it was special. And I think, you know, I think from this series we're going to have a few stars, a minimum few 3, 4, 5 stars come out of that people are really going to want to embrace as fans.
Yeah, absolutely. The show's going to be highly competitive, not just because it's England versus Ireland, but you know, they're fighters at the end of the day. And I was going to ask you what can we expect on the show, but you kind of just, you know, you put the nail on the head there. It was
Just watch it. It's going to run from September right up to November 4th, which is when we're debuting at the AO Arena in Manchester. It'll be weekly, and we should have an announcement fairly soon about where people can catch that, which is exciting as well. We will also, alongside that, be launching the Stage to the Cage, the Jake Quickenden and the Paul Smith. I don't know what you want to call it, like vlogumentary. I made a word up there, mate. I don't know if you're happy with that, but I'm taking it. Vlogumentary for which will run from this month all the way up. And again, I'm hoping it will, you know, with what these guys are doing and the storyline, and also we've got Paul Smith. I'll give you a tiny taste because he's training as he's going around the country. We've seen some of it on his social media.
Yeah,
but he's
yeah.
like when he sold 3 nights in Dublin. And while he was over there, just popped in and trained at SBG Dublin and rolled around with John Kavanagh for a bit. He's been, you know, with various other amazing fighters like Dan Hardy and Jimmy Wallhead, and bouncing around. And then, of course, he's got his main team, which is Blackledge MMA, with you know, legends like James Lewis, who fights for Oktagon, Tom Blackledge, of course, and then various other legends of the game over there. So yeah, that's the plan, and it should all, you know, grow and build towards what will be Manchester, but that will not be it. Like I said, we are pushing forward, and we already have an exciting 2024 as well.
I mean, you know, the pros of Smith going around in tour is huge, because he's going to go around and get these different minds, get these different heads, different advice from, as you talked about, SBG, and then he works with Dan Hardy, so he's going to get all this information, and it's going to be great for him. Obviously, the tour is free, as you talked about, sold out 3 days. It's going to be hard to juggle it.
He's playing in Liverpool, right? He played last night, and he's playing again tonight, and I think it's like he sold it out, like it's either 9 or 11,000 people. That's mad, right? That is mad, in his home city, and I think it's 2 or 3 nights he's there. Like, I'm so proud of these dudes, like both of them. But Paul, not just for his fighting career, but I was a comment for a while, to get to that level on your own without a big agent behind you, to deliver the quality of comedy he's doing, and then on top of it, train for an MMA fight at the AO Arena in Manchester is crazy. But you talk about him training around the country. On the flip side, you got Jake Quickenden, who's based at the Combat Institute down in Colchester, with James Webb, who is fighting for that middleweight strap against Mick Stanton. Yeah, he's fighting for that next. And he's basically, you know, that's his team. And it's very different. So, you know, you've got Paul traveling around. He has his team, his core team, but he's traveling at the same time. Whereas Jake, the bond he has got with James Webb, and also, you know, they're both pushing each other. It's crazy to see, because, you know, he's jumping into James's sport. But I've been there at filming where, whether it's strength and conditioning or grappling or, you know, cage wrestling or whatever else, James has come out and he's gone, I wouldn't have pushed this hard if I wasn't doing it with him. So to hear that type of stuff and that bond building from Jake and James' website is pretty special as well.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the next topic, and I want to talk about July 20th, July 29th. 2 big days for Oktagon. Obviously, on the Friday, we got Oktagon MMA 45 special, and on the Saturday, we got Oktagon MMA 45. 2 very good cards, but I'd like to talk about the Friday one. And we got 2 secs. I'll have to quickly remind myself now.
That's
We got
all right.
Felipe Lima in the main event.
Felipe Lima, yeah.
Also taking, he'll be taking on Jonas Mangard, if I'm correct.
Jonas Magard, yes.
You're very good
The
with your
Danish
pronunciations.
shark. I have to be, because I get in close quarters with him. So if I get it wrong, I get a solid slap, mate. So it's but I did a little interview with him last night. I say interview, like if you were to score Jonas on that against me, it was a 10-8, maybe a 10-7 round, because he just railroaded the whole interview against Felipe Lima. But that's what he does. He doesn't give an inch, doesn't back down. Like, he will not, whether it's an interview, whether it's a stare down, whether it's being at the buffet next to each other trying to get the last chip, he won't give a single inch. So that's a great fight that tops that Friday card.
Yeah, and I'd love for you to talk more about the matchup. Obviously for the bantamweight strap, it's always good when there's a bantamweight, even a title on the line. So talk to us more about that. How do you see the fight going down? The possible outcome.
So Felipe Lima is a debuting fighter for Oktagon. So he was set to debut a little bit earlier in the year. I believe his opponent got injured, so he came out. So it was set to be Jonas Magard against Anton Racic, the former KSW, the first ever KSW bantamweight title holder. Racic came out with a knee injury, so Felipe Lima has stepped in. Now Lima has been asking for Jonas Magard for a long time. We are talking a solid year that he has been on social media trying to get his manager to line up this fight. And Magard, while he was asking for it, was like, there's no story, there's nothing to tell here. Like, you've only fought regional shows in Sweden, which is Jonas's words, not mine. Don't hate me, Lima. So he said, "There's no, you don't deserve to fight me for this." Then they met at Oktagon Time press conference, which is in Ostrava. This was ahead of Jonas Magard defending his belt against Gustavo Lopez, the former UFC fighter, and Lima was there, and they got into it backstage. Jonas and Lima, there's caught on camera. They went at each other, just verbally, just jabbing at each other. So it's kind of put it on the radar from that. Then when Racic came out, Lima has come in, and he's an exciting prospect. He can do everything well. He trains at All Stars with some crazy talent over there in Sweden. Good striker, very athletic, young as well. So still, growing every single fight you see him. And he's not been in the cage for a while. He's not been in since November 2021. But he's facing Jonas Magard. Now, I have been part of Jonas's career, and I say that as far as commentated on his career for a long time. And if you look at his record, you would be a fool to judge him just on how that looks, because in the last, I would say, maybe 4 years, 3-4 years, which coincides with him linking up with Manchester top team, Carl Prince, the likes of Lerone Murphy, those guys up there. He has become such a complete fighter. His grappling was already superb. He's got a number of Japanese neckties, and he hates me for one thing. I think he's got 5 on his record. And when we were in Stuttgart and I was commentating on one of his fights there, I was with Frank Mir again, name drop that again, and we had got Jonas to show us the technique. And Frank broke it down on air. And since then, Jonas has never caught another Japanese necktie. But since then, he has evolved. Like, you look at his fight against Gustavo Lopez in particular, his striking was on point. His fight against Filip Maček is striking again. Everyone thinks he's a grappler. And the other side of it is he's a psychopath. Like, and I know he looks lovely. He looks like the type of guy you'd hope your daughter would bring home. He's blonde hair, blue eyes, nice smiley face. But I've had some conversations with no cameras, no microphones, about fighting, about this life, and about what it means. And he is all in. When he talks about "I'm willing to die" in there, there's this thing where people think it's like a soundbite for the mic. I've had conversations where no mics have been around, and he's talked to me about what he feels in there, or how he is free in the cage. And thank God there is a referee. Thank God there are cameras, because I think this guy is he's meant to do this. He is meant to do this, and for me, he's in the prime of his life. So you got two guys here going at it that don't like each other and that are phenomenally talented and will not back down from a fight.
Absolutely, and obviously, the prelims and the undercard is stacked as well. We have Robert Brzezinski, obviously coming off that fantastic knockout against Lee Chadwick, so he kind of highlighted himself there. And obviously Stuart Austin, for the English fans, probably 1 or 2 wins away from maybe getting a title shot. So
maybe one with Andershak as well. He's facing this Polish monster, and I've called some of Andershak's fights before. This was early in his career. He has got he's massive. He's a true heavyweight. Like Stuart Austin arguably could be a light heavyweight. Spent a lot of his career at light heavyweight. He's at heavyweight, and this is a man monster he's facing. But in his last performance, he showed what he needs to do in this fight, which is control, get it to the mat, top position, grind this fight out, make it hell for the guy on bottom, because Andershak is a very powerful beast. But I think Austin with a good win here is not just, I think he's one. I think this is the fight away from arguing for a title shot.
And that would be a perfect headliner for the Manchester show.
You never know, mate.
We have it.
Know, mate. You never know. You never know.
It would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm very looking forward to that card. Then we'll talk about the Saturday card as well. Mate, Sankidze versus obviously Lucina Chieta. Talk to me about that fight. 145 pounds. They're looking to unify the belt. Chieta, an accurate striker, very lethal, always looking for the finish. And obviously Sankidze, polar opposite, always looking to try and get his grappling involved. Obviously, it's fantastic. His wrestling as well. We've seen it a lot in his his past few fights. I mean, as the commentators say, striker versus grappler matchup. I feel like this is what we got on paper. So, how do you see this fight going down?
I think it's exactly that. I think it really is, and it is not just a fight that is for Oktagon fans. If you are a fan of fighting, you should watch this, because the level that these two guys bring to the cage is phenomenal. Lozan Keita, undefeated, 10 or 11-0, and he's 11-0, and he's just, he's one of these guys that he does stuff in the cage, and you're like, and it's not just what he does, it's who he does it to. Like Samuel Bark, I've got a lot of time for how good of a striker Samuel Bark is, and Keita just dominated that fight. Like it was an absolute, striking masterclass, a destruction of this elite striker. This guy who's multiple accolades in Muay Thai, kickboxing. You look at his win against Ivan Buchinger. He finished Ivan Buchinger, one of the legends of Slovak MMA, of European MMA, in less than, I think it was bang on 3 minutes, pretty much. And the way he did it, it was like he didn't get. Again, you talk about Jonas. He's born for this. He is meant for this limelight. His story as well is a crazy story of turning around. Before, I think it was before his debut, 6 months before, he was in prison for having a fight with his mate. It was a long time ago, and then finally he had to go, and he was looking at his life, and his mom was looking at his life and hoping for something better, and he really embraced fighting. He dropped down from welterweight, had his first fight at lightweight, his first ever fight, which is crazy when you think now he's at featherweight, against Karol Rishavi, and he destroyed him. And since then, he has been on a tear. He's got the eyes of the world on him, but he's up against Mate Sankidze, coming from Georgia. This guy, again, you talk about mentality. He was set to fight Keita back in Bratislava, and during that time, his country, Georgia, was going through some political issues, and he stood with his people. He went out on the streets and protest, got arrested, very high-profile arrest, put in prison. Oktagon and Pavel Neruda, Andre Novotny, we all kind of stood behind him. We backed the campaign, Free Mate Sankidze. It was looking like, and again, he's a father of a young child, but he was standing for the rights of his people. He was standing for what he believed in. We've managed to get him, and I say we, there was a lot of people involved, released from prison. He came out. The first thing he did was go back and march on the streets. This is the guy who's like, that you're not going to break what I believe or my morals or how I stand. And that is the difference. Georgia is it's a beautiful country, but it is still has the taste of war in its mouth. And these fighters like Gogoladze, Mate Sanakidze, you look at Meres Devashvili, people like that, they still talk about, feeling what that was like. And when I talk to Gogoladze, who trains sometimes with Sanakidze, he said, how can I be scared of what happens in the cage? I've been in war. I've seen the worst of human behavior. I've seen the worst possible sides of life. So that is, you've got a guy that's carved out of something different and with a skill set as well, which could be the kryptonite to Keita. He is a great grappler. His cage wrestling is super strong. So for me, it's one, the whole weekend is worth this fight alone.
Absolutely. And as you talked about, you got Ivan on the card as well, Ivan Bishinga, and obviously Callum Mullen, obviously returning as well.
Coming back against Roman Paulus as well. So people don't know Roman Paulus, but he won I think it was season 3 of Oktagon Challenge. And again, it's a huge show over there. And he has been in there with some big talent. He's well-rounded. He lost his last fight against the Georgian. I've forgotten his name, but a Georgian by way of Germany. But for Callum, it's a tough fight. But again, like Callum wants tough fights. He wants these tests. And I think as a matchup with two young guys under the age of 25, you're looking at potential, champions of the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really intrigued to that fight, obviously because I like watching, the English fight, and I watched the first fight between Callum, and as you talked about, he's only ever going to learn from that fight. It's only upwards for now for Callum, and he's in the safe hands over there. I think the gym is
completely Aspire
over there with Dean Garnett. Yeah, Dean Garnett. Then, so yeah, he's in safe hands with Dean. Dean obviously been around, a veteran. He's headlining show on August 4th for Hexagon. So he's been around and done it. So he's in safe hands, and I'm expecting a better, more improved Callum, and I feel like he's going to really bring the fight.
He's one to watch, mate. Like don't judge him on that last fight because
absolutely.
And I think, I think he's in a good gym with good people. His brother trains as well. His brother is phenomenal.
Tom,
I think they're both good. All three brothers train. They're all ridiculously good. They're all ridiculously good. But I think, don't judge him on that last fight. Even after this fight, I was in the hotel and I've post-show adrenaline, all that sort of stuff. Don't go to sleep till crazy o'clock in the morning. And I've clicked my phone and I was just doing the Instagram scroll thing. And it was like 3:30 in the morning. And he was on Instagram live, not live, but, a story running. This is after his fight. He was running around Bratislava, just gone for a run. He's like, back at it, go. Built different, mate. Built different.
Mentality that's going to obviously ultimately get him to the top. That reminds me of a fantastic story, actually. Before an interview, I was going to speak to Lee Chadwick. It was leading up to the Robert fight, and he was late to our interview. And he sent me a voice note, and he said, "Can we delay it for 30 minutes because I was running?" And he says, "I got to 10 miles," and he said, in his words, he said, "Fuck it, I'm going to do a marathon," and he ran 26.
They're crazy dudes, man. They're crazy dudes. I love them.
And obviously, it was so funny, and he was just like,
"How'd you do an interview after running a marathon as well?" That makes me. I came down the stairs and I was out of breath, mate. I came down, not even upstairs. I came down the stairs and I was out of breath. Yeah, and I was late, 3 minutes late. So Chadwick's got one on me there for sure.
Chadwick is always in shape. He said he got to 5 miles, he got to 10 miles, and he got 15 miles, and he said, "You know what? I'm doing a marathon. Fuck it. That's it. That was his exact words."
I get 4 or 5 yards and I'm having a beer. That's what I do. That's the difference between me and Chadwick. But you can tell that in our bodies. If we stood side by side on the beach, you would very easily be able to tell us apart.
Absolutely. Last question. Obviously, we talked about how different promotions that you've commentated on. Sorry, with all these different people that you've had by your side, co-hosted with. You talked about there, Frank Mir. We talked about before we went on there, Brad Pickett. Who was the one? Or I think I know the answer already. But who was the best co-commentator to have you rolling hypothetically at the booth?
Well, most of them made me roll as well. So that's the other thing. I usually get battered before we do that. for me, as a personal one, as a friend, Brad Pickett side by side, because we have become, through the years that we've worked together and done some crazy stuff together, some crazy projects, super close mates. Our families are really close. We do that. So traveling with him, the whole experience, the whole, weekend, as it becomes, is special with him, because he's just a kid. He is just this idiot that follows you around, and it's the best energy you could ever want in your life. But then, as far as knowledge and also just, aware of somebody who truly studies, and I mean this, like, I've sat by people before and they don't put in the work. They don't, they turn up, they turn on the mic and they think that's enough. Whereas Frank Mma, like, he studies fighting. I've seen him, and this is again the Jonas thing. So we were watching fights back for the Japanese necktie. They're just doing commentary notes for the Stuttgart fight, and he was really impressed by the way he set it up, because it was, so found him, got him, set some mats out, and then I've seen him do it with coaches. I've seen him, watch a fight in Russia or in America, and there'll be a guy on the undercard, and he'll have done some strange combination, and he'll seek them out to find out how it works, what's the thinking behind it. So for me, like, somebody who is super articulate, one of the well-read, most, again, when you're talking about how people perceive fighters, one of the cleverest humans that I've met is Frank, because you could throw anything out. It could be the most dull fight, and I can have the most interesting conversation with him, because nothing doesn't excite him about fighting, even though it's been his life, even though it's now his daughter and his son's life. He still gets excited by moments or moves or, positions or escapes or, characters of the sport. So for me, he is he's special in commentary. I think he's extremely good.
A real student of the game, even though you'd cast him as a professor, because he's retired, he's been there, he's done it.
He's not retired, mate. Don't. He's just lost 38 pounds in his last, I don't know where it might be, 6 months or something. So I smell something coming. I think his aim is to have his last fight on the same card as his daughter. His daughter Bella. Yeah, so she's 3-0 as a pro. She's just won. And this is the first time anyone's ever done this as a freshman. She just won the National Wrestling Championship. She pinned every one of her opponents, which is unheard of. And she's now going to do the Worlds. But I think the plan is for them to fight on the same. And he wants her to headline. So he wants to go on the undercard, and for her to be the main thing, which says a lot, right?
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Obviously, Bella as well, being the first ever nil athlete of the UFC, so she's got fantastic backing behind her as well.
Yeah, just been re-signed as well. Dana knows what he's doing, mate. He knows the pedigree, and also, like, look, do you know, like, you stud horses and prize-winning dogs and things? Frank Mir should have studied, because all of his kids are phenomenal. Like Cage Mir, he was. I've spent time at their house, and it was when Bella was like 13, 14. Do you know the thing where people could tear an apple apart with their hands? She could do that then. And then she went on holiday and she did it with a coconut. That was at 13, 14 years of age. Cage Mir, he is nearly as big as Frank now. Even when he was 15, he could bench press 265 pounds, like rep.
What are them genetics?
That's so the genes, man. He, like, again, and I've said, like, I sat with my wife. I was like, we could have a Mia. We could ask how much it would cost. We could, because these genes. Listen, I'm no Frank Mir, but I see that there's they're all going to watch the space as well. Cage Mir, whether he wrestles, which he's already smashed, or plays American football or fights, he will be a superstar in whatever sport he does. Ronan is their youngest, who is a ninja at jiu-jitsu. He's the smallest as well. He's the scariest of all of them. And then Bella is the most focused young. And again, it's credit to them, credit to him and his wife, how they brought those kids up. So yeah, all hail the Mias.
Bryan, an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Obviously, catch Oktagon MMA 45 special on the Friday, July 28th, and obviously Oktagon MMA 45 on the Saturday. Two great double-header title fights that we can obviously pack down and watch. Bryan, as I talked about, an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks for speaking about Oktagon MMA.
That's all
Everything.
right.
You know,
Well,
I
I
appreciate
hope you come and see it, mate. Come watch November 4th. Don't forget, people, you can buy your tickets. Ticketmaster.com, AO Arena in Manchester. Stage of the Cage will be released later this month. That's with Jake Quickenden and Paul Smith. And then, of course, Oktagon Challenge is going to go live September all the way into the week before November 4th. AO Arena, Manchester. Let's go.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Bryan. An absolute pleasure. I'll catch you soon.
Take care.